Welcome back. Now this is Biashara Tuesday. Thank you for keeping it KUTV rise today. And I mentioned that after the break we'll be back with newspaper review. And what we'll be discussing in the newspapers is what has been happening in the country. That is the developments in the country that has made news. And right now I want us to take a look at what has been developing in the country in terms of news. And then after these updates, we'll now talk about those news that you've been hearing. And tutakuwa tukichambua with the panelist here, that is Emmanuel Kutosi, who is already here with us in studio, and also with Ojwang Mariam, who is set to be joining us in a bit. Now getting straight into the news that had made headlines over the weekend. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has broken, let me just get that right. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has broken his silence on the developments that has been happening around his speech, and he has now said that after disappearing following a dramatic raid on his Karen and Wamunyoro residences, in a media briefing, Gachagua accused President William Ruto of orchestrating the raid as part of a way to silence his career, his political career. Now, let's get more on that story.
If I was an irresponsible leader, ningewachilia supporters yangu watoke. Can you imagine kama ni Raila Odinga alitolewa kwa kiti? Ingekuwa namna gani?
Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua and Democracy for Citizens Party leader has linked the raid on his Karen and Wamunyoro residence to President William Ruto, whom he claims is the mastermind behind the operation. According to Gachagua, rogue officers allegedly under the National Intelligence Service attempted to frame him for illegal possession of firearms with the plan to incapacitate him using dangerous chemicals.
Let me assure the planners of this violence that you will not stop the cause of the people of Kenya. The one-term movement and the DCP party popularity will not be stopped and will not be slowed down. The cause to liberate Kenya is not about Rigathi Gachagua. All the leaders with me, wasting time and resources to stop me is a zero-sum game. The people of the Republic of Kenya have said that lies must stop.
It is reported that the officers were conducting a manhunt for Gachagua while he was attending a church service in Murang'a. According to Gachagua's legal team led by Ndegwa Njiru, the former DP narrowly escaped the raid. The lawyers have since called on the government to present formal charges, if any, that justify the search and pursuit on their client.
At about 2:30 p.m., we received further intelligence from the deployed patriotic officers who are not in agreement with the information that they had clear instructions to plant arms and weapons in our convoy to provide evidence to arrest us and get evidence that they could charge us with in court. After about 30 minutes, the killer squad was joined by their counterparts who are highly trained in the use of biological weapons. Their instructions were to poison me through inhaled chemicals that would paralyze my brain within 3 months. This was the intent and the purpose of the whole operation.
Gachagua has long raised concerns about his safety and has previously accused the government of withdrawing his security details to expose him to harm. The raid follows recent comments he made on a one-on-one interview with one of the popularly followed Gen Z show, where he was comparing the current political climate and the 2007 post-election violence, which were viewed as inflammatory. However, Gachagua appeared to justify his comments.
Mimi nilisema juzi, na mimi naona they are trying to change the context of what I said. Mimi sijasema Kenya itakuwa na fujo. Mimi nimesema, nikisikiza wa Kenya vile wanasema wewe William Ruto usijaribu kuiba uchaguzi. Na nimeuliza IBC, please be patriotic, msiweke hii nchi kwa shida. Because history has shown when there is a contested election, there can be violence. And it has happened. And we must refer to history.
Gachagua is once again on the wrong side of the government after he was earlier associated with the Gen Z-led protest where he was said to have funded the riot, something that he deferred with publicly. Now with the raid in Gachagua's camp, political temperatures continue to escalate, with a number of leaders condemning the act, calling it as an intimidation play. Edward Nyamo, KUTV.
Now, yesterday morning, Trans Nzoia Governor, that is George Natembeya, was arrested following a raid by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission (EACC) at his Kitale residence. The arrest is linked to an ongoing investigation into alleged embezzlement of public funds. The dramatic turn of events has sparked chaos in Kitale, with the residents storming the EACC offices in protest, leading to widespread vandalism and riots across the town. Elimelech Mwadori has the full report on the developments that have crippled Trans Nzoia County. Now, apologies for the technical error that has just occurred. And now on the same story, we'll be giving you details of that story on the newspaper review. Now, moving on to another top story that we'll be talking about on the newspaper review, that is Tanzanian opposition leader Tundu Lissu appeared before the Kisutu Resident Magistrates Court yesterday under tight security as his legal battle continues to unfold. Government lawyers sought additional time to conclude the investigations, leading to Lissu's return to prison until his next court hearing scheduled for June 2nd. The high-profile case drawn significant attention from regional human rights activists, particularly from Kenya. While several Kenyan activists were denied entry into Tanzania, former Chief Justice David Maraga was notably allowed to witness the proceedings, further intensifying focus on the case.
Chadema party leader Tundu Lissu was brought to Kisutu Magistrate Court under heavy security. Guarded all the way to the dock, he smiled as he stood before the resident magistrate Franco Kiswaga. The Tanzanian government lawyers told the court that the investigation into the case is in its final stages. However, Lissu's lawyer requested the case proceed in the normal legal process rather than through the virtual sessions. The magistrate granted this request and warned those attending the proceedings to remain calm. Lissu was returned to prison, with the case set to resume on 2nd June. Tundu Lissu was arrested by the Tanzanian police on 9th April this year. After concluding a Chadema public rally in Mbinga, his arrest is linked to allegations of treason and incitement for urging citizens to boycott elections unless electoral reforms are carried out. Using the well-known slogan, "No reforms, no elections," he is also accused of publishing false information. The case involving the Tanzania's opposition leader has attracted attention from activists and human rights groups, particularly from Kenya. However, many of them were denied entry into Tanzania to attend the hearing. They were deported back upon arrival at Julius Nyerere International Airport. However, former Chief Justice David Maraga was granted entry and was able to attend the proceedings.
Have been detained awaiting deportation. We thought that as citizens of Jumuiya we were free, but not yet uhuru.
The Kenyans who were denied entry into Tanzania to follow Tundu Lissu's case include opposition leader Martha Karua, former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga, human rights advocate Lynn Ngugi, and lawyer Gloria Kimani. Activists Hanifa Adan and Hussein Khalid were also denied entry, while activist Boniface Mwangi found himself in trouble while in Tanzania. The Kenyan government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura defended the Kenyan government's action, stating that the decisions were made independent by the Tanzanian state. Blue Ismail Hassan, KUTV.
Now, Fafi Member of Parliament, that is Salah Yakub, has openly criticized the government's recent decision to designate areas in Masalani, Garissa, and Tana River counties as protected zones. The move, led by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen, came through an official notice dated 16th May. It declared the Masalani National Intelligence Service NIS campus and the surrounding Jamhuri areas, along with the Tana River NIS campus, as restricted zones requiring heightened security measures. MP Yakub argues that this decision could adversely affect local residents, questioning its necessity and potential impact on the community.
Speaking in Bura East Town, Garissa County, during a livestock restocking exercise, Fafi Member of Parliament Salah Yakub condemned the move to designate parts of Masalani in Garissa and Tana River counties as protected areas, terming it as counterproductive and punitive order against his people. According to MP Yakub, this decision directly impacts residents of Masalani and neighboring areas who will now require Haji's approval for access.
He is not performing professional. He is not. Ni chungu sana niongee kuhusu brother yangu atolewe kazi ama mchochee. Sisi tunaelewa mambo ya protected areas. Sisi tunaelewa uchungu tulipitiziwa tikiwa na maximum security. Sasa wewe ukisema umejenga boma nzima, hata mtu anapoingia anaambiwa ya kwamba lazima achukue ruhusa from the head director of DIG, director of intelligence. Sasa unatuambia nini?
Yakub accused the NIS Director General of potentially misusing the order, citing past instances of alleged abuse. Yakub expressed deep concern over the implications of the protected area designation, drawing parallels to past experiences of government overreach.
That will attract, hiyo sasa itavutia wale magaidi. Itavutia kabisa. Inasema hapa sasa kuna maximum security, lazima tuende tufanye kazi kuli. You can't add an assault on an injury. Wezi ni chungu sana niongee hiyo. Waziri wa Interior, ile gazettement alifanya jana usiku ya protection of Masalani campus, anasema ya intelligence, hiyo kitu atupilie mbali ama sisi tutaenda kotini na tunasimamisha hata kama mimi si bunge huko.
The Member of Parliament demanded the immediate degazettement of the order, threatening to mobilize residents for legal action if the government fails to comply. He also issued a stern warning to President William Ruto, stating that regional support will hinge on developmental progress and the cessation of perceived discriminatory policies.
So here you have not done public participation. Ujiongea na watu wa Bura, ujiongea na watu wa Ijara, because that's a county thing, it's not a Masalani thing. Ujiongea na watu wa Bura, ujiongea na watu wa Masalani, ujiongea na watu wa Ladera.
While the government did not explicitly state the reasons for the protected area designation, it is understood that NIS facilities house sensitive intelligence operations necessitating stringent access control for security and confidentiality. The Protected Areas Act CAP 204 provides the legal framework for such restrictions in the interest of national security. Rajab Juma, KUTV.
Now, a section of grassroots leaders from Matungulu in Machakos County has come out in strong support of President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza administration. The leaders cited their desire to align with the government's development agenda, emphasizing their interest in benefiting from ongoing and future national projects. They pledged their backing for the president, provided his administration delivers on its promises. These sentiments come as the government continues to roll out its development initiatives across the country. Let's listen in to what the leaders had to say.
Leaders from Matungulu, Machakos County has commended President William Ruto for what they termed as showing commitment to uplifting and develop regions, saying that they are eager to receive him during his expected tour to the Ukambani region. As part of their development priorities, the leaders highlighted the urgent need to reconstruct the Oldonyo Sabuk Bridge, which was destroyed last year when the river flooded.
Kwa hilo, tunajua barabara inakuja sasa.
These leaders' sentiments comes at a time when political tension continues to surface around the country, with the formation of the New People's Liberation Party PLP, with Kalonzo Musyoka being a part of the party. Questions now arising.
Tunakupenda sana, sisi ni watu wa UDA. from scratch mpaka 2032. Na tuko na wewe kabisa, wapende wasipende. Sisi hatuko kwa opposition. Opposition kama hawataki, tutafanya kazi na wewe, na tunafanyanga kazi na ile serikali iko. Na president tunakukaribisha sana, karibu huku kwetu Matungulu.
Additionally, the local residents have shown their undying support for President Ruto, condemning those who oppose him and encourage the need for development instead, promising to support Ruto ahead of 2027 elections.
Sisi raisi, tunakutambua, wewe ndio rais wetu wa Kenya. Na kiti tunakupea mpaka 2032. Hatuoni mtu wa kupingana na wewe. Sisi hatuko kwa Kalonzo, sisi hatuko kwa Matiang'i, tuko chini yako.
Kwa kuwa kuna kasumba kaliingia mahali, tunakuomba utusamee. Kama kuna mtu alikupiganisha na sisi, tunaomba utusamee sana. Tunakupenda sana. Matungulu Northward, tunakukaribisha sana kwa kuwa tunakupenda.
Omba rais.
Henceforth, this move of support marks a notable shift in the political dynamics of Ukambani, a region historically considered as an opposition stronghold. James Baraka for
Right. That is on the news update. And those are just among the stories that you're going to be talking about this morning. Let me just take you quickly through the headlines. We are having two newspapers today, that is the Standard and the Daily Nation. The Standard says, ruthless president, prominent critics of President William Ruto's administration faced a turbulent day yesterday as the state agencies appeared to close in. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya was grilled by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, while Mumia's Member of Parliament Peter Salassi appeared in court just days after being attacked by unidentified assailants. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua sensationally claimed that his life is in danger. In fact, he says that there is a plan to assassinate him. And the Daily Nation says Ruto critics face police crackdown. That is the conversation you're having this morning with Ojwang, Mariam, and Emmanuel Kutosi. The able gentlemen are already in studio. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
Asante.
I'll begin by you, not you. I'll begin by you, Kutosi. Please introduce yourself to our viewers back at home.
Okay, viewers, wherever you are, my name is Emmanuel Kutosi. I am a reporter within Kenyatta University and TV, and I really appreciate this moment to be here, to be chiseling through the dailies, to be able to see and analyze the various aspects that have been portrayed by various dailies.
Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
Thank you.
Ojwang?
Asante. Good morning everyone. Bado najituma kwa community. Ojwang Mariam, mtoto wa Mariam, senior warrant officer 1. I have a profile, as I keep saying, that if you want to have change in your community, continue doing it at the level you are in. And one day, one time, whatever they say, ipo siku, is just something that stars aligns. Right now, there is an organization, the biggest in the country, that does grassroots mobilization, shining hope for communities, with the headquarters at New York and the other one in Kibera and Mathare, Nairobi, serving as Kahawa West youth leader. I'm delighted, grateful, and humbled to be here for this newspaper review. Wakenya wajue ukweli, ndo hata wao wajisaidie.
Kieleweke. I'm having the dailies injecting, the Standard as always, and the Daily Nation doing the explanation. Now, just from where you sit, Kutosi, it is believed that this is an intimidation tactic. At least most people are saying that this is an intimidation tactic from the government, and the government is using state machinery to create an environment where the voices of government critics are submerged or are silenced in that matter. Do you think that this is actually an intimidation tactic by the government, or it's just the government doing its role of ensuring peace and stability in the country?
I will not put myself in either direction. I'll just point out that for each and every utterance that we get from every political side, there are usually those repercussions. But particularly, there is some moments when you're getting some misbehavior, particularly from our political leads. We'll look at the politicians. Let's say yesterday, the former deputy president made actually allegations also of his life being in danger. But for some reason, it's like it's something that may be downplayed. Yet, we are looking at a period when we've just lost an MP who was also claiming that their life was in danger. At the same time, you're also having a skeptic concourse, because within the second page of the Daily Nations, you're seeing that a Catholic priest who hosted Gachagua was found murdered. So this may be an error in communicating, because maybe the situation that happened was not attached with the deputy president, but we are still finding that talk coming about. For the critics, the government has to accept that we're in a democracy that is matured. And I cannot say that it is not right for people to be able to be vocal, particularly on the grievances that they have, because particularly within Kenya and the democracy that we have, people have to talk, because that is the way of Kenyans. Even we've spread out so far, we are now also maybe in a way awakening our sisters and brothers in Tanzania, telling them you should be vocal about various things, which is very key, because we are ages up, in particularly in matters of democracy. So when you see the state acting, it may be a knee-jerk reaction. They may be responding that way, yes, and it is something that will always happen, because the state will also always be act by any moment where they feel like they've been pointed for some reason, even in positions of power. When you're being highlighted as there is an error here, power does not respond well to correction. That is something that we expect. But currently, I believe we are going to very elevated situations. Looking at the arrest of George Natembeya, he's the governor of Trans Nzoia County. One, he's a state leader. If you called this person to the offices of the EACC, would they not come? Why does the arrest of such a person have to be so dramatic? If Ojwang was being arrested, probably he would be allowed to send me an SMS somewhere to tell me he has an issue. But the drama that we are seeing when they are being called, because what was done yesterday, one, it is something that should be shunned, because if we are looking at what happened within Trans Nzoia during this arrest, it's not something that should happen. But you're seeing that it's being displayed right there. People are coming within, they vandalize those vehicles. It is government property. In fact, ni mali ya mwananchi. But why did it have to go through that course? Isn't this someone who you could be able to address? All of these are leaders who you can be able to bring on book. Salasia is everywhere in chains. And weirdly, even the way we are seeing the political, not even the political leaders, the CSs within the government responding, for some reason or another, Tapata, even within the launch of the DCP party, it may not have been known in areas like Garissa, but Eden Duale has gone and is publicizing it. For some reason, they've done free marketing for Gachagua. But the thing I'm seeing is the government is responding too harshly. It's something that you don't even need to respond. Just allow democracy to be as it is. That would be my take.
Democracy to be as it is. Do you believe that Kenya is really a democratic state, or that's just an ideology that we have? Because people are allowed to speak freely. People are allowed to have public participation on what they want to be involved in policy making and all that. But as we see it, the executive seems to be having more power than any other state, and most of, not state, but arm of government, the legislature, the judiciary, all appear to be inclining towards the goals of the executive. Do you think that we are really a democratic country, or we are the democracy is really practiced in this country?
The democracy is there, and the part of the executive having power, that is how any democratic state is. The power is with the executive, because it is communicated from the people. When we go through elections, we communicate our power up there. So they have the amalgamation of all that power up there. Now the way they use it is where we come into calling them on check. Currently we have various arms to do that. Apart from that, now you have the voice of the wananchi at the ground. And also, when you see, like, we can be able to, we are not yet there in terms of optimacy as a democracy, but we are growing towards it. Because the dissent we're able to raise, even concerning our leaders, when you have issues, what we're able to air out in some countries would not be aired out. I'm looking at, I'll still go to Tanzania, which is the latest country to rebuke us, particularly in the idea of tuna tabia mbaya. if you were to listen to the speech by the Honorable Samia Suluhu. But within, unfortunately, within Tanzania, it's not possible to have that democratic space that we have within Kenya. And probably it's because, for some reason, what they are going through right now, Kenya went through around 30 years ago. Since the beginning of their running, it's been Chama cha Mapinduzi. So they're in the KANU era. We're already in a place where we are having a multilateral political environment. So you cannot say that we are not anywhere, but we are progressing. We are not yet there, but we are moving in that direction, because even the action we are seeing, in fact, I believe what I'm perceiving when analyzing the politics even within the region, I think the powers that are somehow worried about a possible transition that is happening, particularly a generational shift in matters of leadership. Because with the way, for some reason, Kenya was able to put a hold on things that Kenyans themselves did not agree to, even within last year, even as you approach a similar season within this year, was able to also tickle the minds of various people. Particularly, we saw a response of such a nature in Uganda, which has seen also quite a challenging government, and they were able to share their dissent. So now we are seeing Tanzania moving in the same direction. The same thing has also been witnessed in what? Kizza Besigye. The guy was taken from here. We had an activist from Tanzania, picked up from here. So right now you're able to see within the streams of power, it's like there is some worry of what is happening, which is somehow unstoppable. I think one leader has been called out, and amepigwa sana because of this, would be the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, particularly akiwa Makerere University some time back. He actually made that direct comment that the youth is the future that Africa can hope for. And for some reason, that awakening is arcing those powers that have been. And for some reason, the violence will be there, because for some reason that transition can never be one that is quite silent. But as a democracy, Kenya, we are moving somewhere. Yeah.
So power shall be taken, not easily. So Ojwang, from where you sit, Rigathi Gachagua made the remarks. Now this is in connection to what he said on Saturday, that if at all anything happens for the 2027 elections and it's rigged, what happened in 2007 will be like a celebration, and it will be worse in 2027. Now, these remarks were considered to be insightful. With the recent developments, critics of the government say this is intimidation from the state to silence critics of the government. But the government on its end is also saying that, you know, this is not right. You know of situations where someone tells you that, I know you have the freedom of speech, but don't talk to me the way you're talking to me. The government is giving such situations that I know you have the right, the freedom of speech, but what you're saying is not right to be said in public. Do you have a side that you're on this, whether it is intimidation or it's the government trying to maintain law and order?
The Standard are talking about ruthless president. They've not told us who or which president we're talking about. Kama kuna kitu mimi napenda ni kuulizwa from where you sit unaonaje. Juu nikiulizwa hivyo najuaga nimeulizwa Ojwang, from your available things that you have, can we get a solution from there? And you asked about democracy because that's what is at stake right now. If the Standard on not the second page, are talking about democracy being at risk. That is on page 4. Democracy at risk as critics say state is out to suppress dissenting views. It means that we have democracy. For a fact, guys, we have democracy. And that is why we have a president in office. If we did not have democracy, then President Ruto would not be president today. Pre-2022, the former president, the fourth president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, in public said that he's not going to leave this country under the hand of people he called thieves.
But when Kenyans went to the ballot, and the IEBC, a body that is charged, or a commission that is charged to tell us, this is the president that Kenyans have elected, whoever President Uhuru Kenyatta called thief, because we know it's in public domain, ni vile siwezi taka kusema hapa, msianze kuniuliza ni substantiate, hii hata nyinyi mnajua tukue tuna waste time, is the one who took the Bible and swore to protect the Constitution. But something had happened around that time, that the President of Kenya concentrated so much on the sword and not on the Bible. Anashika sword lakini anasema, nikiweka Biblia chini, this and this will happen. If our democracy is at stake, yet it is the same democracy that we used to get you to office. Personally, people like myself did not vote for President Ruto. But we had to respect the fact that kuna watu wamemchagua na ujanja yake, whether kiliibiwa ama akikuibiwa, IEBC chair the late amesema yeye ndiye ameshinda. We respected that. It was easy for him because he rode on a hustler narrative. And hustlers pre-2022 walikuwa wanalia, democracy yetu haiko, munatunyanyasa sana kwa magari huko juu. I remember once the former DP Ruto asking politely, atumia hadi moyo mkunjufu, asking President Uhuru, ngangana na mimi, usiniguzie watoto. But when he took power, what is the first thing that happened? He started with watoto. You ever heard of the time when President Uhuru went to advocate for his son who had been done the same things that Natembea is going through, the same things that Akina Salasia are going through, intimidations. Whenever you face intimidations in your life, it means you are on the right track. If we were doing well and everyone was comfortable with what is happening in Kenya, we would not have these cases of unrests. But again, judging from history, now that Bob Marley aliweza kutuambia, for you to be able to know kwenye unaenda, ikwewe ni mras ama si mras, you must be able to identify umetoka wapi. History is key, history is important. Because the more things seem different, the more they are the same. Sio mara ya kwanza watu wamekuwa intimidated via sijui kukuwa detained. Hizi vitu sisi kama wa Kenya tulipitia in the 90s na tukakuwa tumedevelop resilience. That is why mataifa kama DR Congo bado wao wanapitia mayhem kila wakati, Southern Sudan the same, Somalia the same. Sisi tunateseka, but at least we still have some level ya kulend a hand to our Tanzanian brothers and sisters. Pale mama amewafinya. Tundu is not a Lisu anymore. Yeye akondani ya Lisu uko sel. Sasawa. But we have even a youthful generation being led by activist journalist Hanifa detained in that country. We've also had cases of Mother Karua, the Iron Lady, being detained in Tanzania wakitetea watu. Kama tungekuwa na democracy, these voices should be in Kenya fighting for us. But these voices, including the former CJ, Dr. Willy Mutunga, believe that mahali tumefika, we can fight for ourselves. We can trust youthful people like Anyango Sylvia. We can trust Kutosi Hamad. We can also trust people like Ojwang Mariam to continue championing for democracy in Kenya as they step forward in another East African country that needs us. What we are supposed to do as Kenyans, we're supposed to learn from these things. We are resilient people. Hizi zote zimefanyika na hakuna mtu amekufa. If you look at picha ya Salasia on page 6.
Before you go to Salasia Ojwang,
nimalizie ndio nikawanishe. If you look at the picture yenye iko hapo ya page 6, Salasia being freed, yeye na watu wako hapo wanakaa happy or contented even after kutoa hiyo bond ya 200k. But the cop mwenye amewashika hapo, yeye ndiye anahuzunika. Intimidations don't work in Kenya. They make you stronger. These are the same people who tell you what doesn't kill me definitely makes me strong. And if they thought they're going to silence youth by kushika watu kama hao Salasia kuwafanya vitu kama hizo ati ndio wanyamaze, look at the guy, look at the hair, and you will believe that the gods must not be crazy.
Okay. Although you've mentioned something that when you're intimidated, you should know that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
But there's a case when you're talking about what you're talking about is different here. We're talking about Natembea. The charges are corruption, and we know our leaders. They are more or less the same. We have seen most of them flaunting cash in bands. So those are millions being flaunted. And when EACC is on your case, that means lisemwalo lipo kama lipo laje. So in as much as you're saying it's intimidation and you're on the right track, the case of Rigathi Gachagua, he mentioned very, I heard what he said and I was like, you know, you're feeling that. And now when you say he's intimidated and he's on the right track, don't you think that that's misleading?
Why am I saying this? We need more civic education at the community level. Because of this, everyone in Kenya under Constitution of Kenya 2010 has a right to what we call habeas corpus. Before I arrest you, even if I'm a cop, there are some procedures I must follow. I must see you with a warrant, and they are doing that through backdoor wanatumia hadi EACC. To arrest a governor, mwenye unajua akona following. To arrest an MP, mwenye unajua akona following. Because these people are elected. See the same na kunominatiwa venye unasikia Senator Gloria Ruoba anaambiwa, oh Ruoba, go home ufanyi kazi. Elected means the power of the people is directly in you. Do something that we call respect. Niandikie barua kutoka EACC. Deliver it to my office. These governors have offices even in Nairobi, the capital. If I don't appear in court or in EACC, that is why you give warrant of arrests. Warrants of arrest are given to watu wenye wanaonekana huyu sheria lazima itumie nguvu maradufu ndo wafike hapo. The moment you take cops who are our brothers and our sisters, wakuje wafanye vitu kama hizo kwa ground, sisi ndio wanapata. Wewe kama ni follower wa Natembea, and you know these politicians are the same because everyone in this country is corrupt, including you, madam. It is just a chance that you've not got, or the principles, please, or the principles that taught you in your environment taught you better. But deep down, we are all born evil. That is why the Bible says that none is righteous. How you grow, you change, iyo ndo kuchange. Unakuwa sasa wewe ni mzuri, you are not participating. And how do you know that someone is corrupt? Whenever you are termed as against the government, you criticize the government, the first dog to bark must be a commission we call EACC. Whether ukona corruption ama hauna, and you are criticizing the government, you must face EACC. Even Morara, kama haujafikiwa na EACC, bado hauna net worth. Hiyo ni kitu tu ni kadogo.
Alright. Kutosi, how well then should the government react when such sentiments and occurrences are upcoming, especially with these big, let's call them big public figures who have massive following?
Okay, I'm still settling down from what Ojwang has said concerning the man holding the sword, putting down the Bible, and the question was what was he left with in his hand, but that is up to you. But the sentiments, some of the utterances made by Rigathi Gachagua, they were not, what can I say? Gachagua has not been quite the articulate person in matters of speaking. He can be quite, I don't know, he actually puts himself in the position of I'm not that educated, but the utterances he made, they were heavy. For anyone who understands the history of Kenya and what Kenya went through in 2007, it's not something that can be taken lightly. And maybe there was a better way of putting it out. But it is not also something to disregard what he may have said in a very rough manner, or rather in a very, what would I say? It was not an unsanitized manner, because there is a way of bringing that point across. Because if you're to look at the issues that brought about the issues of the elections in 2007, unfortunately, you can see elements of them within this rally as we move towards the elections as we have them. We are seeing a lot of ethnic politicking. You will point me out that the deputy president was sidelined because of being a Murima situation, someone who was championing for one region. But when you look at the various things we are seeing right now, there is a lot of regional politics. If we are keen, just look at the stories even going the way we've had the stories coming in. If you look at what is happening, it's a various region. Nyinyi watu wa huku, tunataka mkue kwa serikali. What does that mean? When we vote in our power to come and be the governing authority, it is the nation of the people, not of some people. But when you're finding that we are also moving to various regions with that commentary, it is something that also splits the people. At the same time, he said something that was very uncultured. And looking at the processes we have right now, one, we had a delayed vetting of our IBC. Creation of that body was delayed. We've been able to find shortlisted candidates. We have issues with the shortlisted candidates. We also have issues because I believe right now the High Court has created an injunction. The National Assembly cannot be able to vet them because they also have questions about, one, the shortlisted candidates were 105. 6 were added to 111. How did that happen? You see, there's a way of communicating, this is why this has happened. And that motion of making things happen without consulting first the majority, or rather communicating even with the Mwananchi to know, okay, we had 105, these 6 came from this particular area or the other. It creates skepticism. The elections is something that touches on each and every Kenyan, everyone who's making that decision of who they are going to elect. But the issues we've had, even with the previous elections, we had the talk of Fungua Sava. Fungua Sava tuone. But that means there is a troubling trust situation with our election. So when we have questions in the beginning of the process, what assures us that we'll trust the end process? For that reason, I would say probably I wish I could link up with Gachagwa's PA and tell him there is a way of guiding your guy to speak out because it's a valid point, but said recklessly. Because the wounds of 2007 are not yet healed. There are people who lost lives, lost their fathers, their mothers, their children. There are people who lost property. There are people who have never gone back. There are people who also have the scars. They are healing, you see. But no one, I believe anyone who's sane would not anticipate such a situation in 2027. We would want to have a peaceful transition. But since we are in the moment of preparing that journey, it's best to ensure we have everything packed. Let anything that comes at that situation be an emergency that we can be able to deal with. But if you mess with the situation from the start, when we have a questionable body already, before it is even constituted, you already have questions. That clarity is necessary. That transparency is necessary. Because unfortunately, we also have a very aware generation that is coming to the ballot, that will have that decision-making authority, quite in a very magnanimous way. And to be able to ensure that we just move in step, because state machinery is nothing because compared to the people who made that state machinery. It has been witnessed over and over again. But we need order, and that is something that also enshrines our democracy, protects it, and allows us to move on as a country. But we have to be keen, even within the motions of having that authority as the state, that trust of ensuring there's a probable and peaceful transition is upon the state. And that has to happen. If not, people will see it. And when they see it, what is likely to happen? Because what happened in 2007 was based on a lot of confusion, a lot of entitlement, a lot of division. Yet what we require as a nation, one, is cohesion. We need to understand that we move as a unit. We are Kenyan. So that we can even go and make the Tanzania situation move in a certain direction, we also have to understand that we have to have that pact direction.
Move on.
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Now, mwelekezi wangu ananiambia kwa muda wetu is not really right with us. So I'll just have quick feedbacks, especially concerning the decision to hold IEBC vetting process by Parliament. We have that also, and the decision by Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu to deport what she says activists from East Africa. You know,
imported imported
something
activists.
Interesting about it, because in as much as they hate, it's not hate, detest how Kenyan politics works. At some ways, today in all Tanzanian newspapers, Kenya has been on the headline of all the papers in Tanzania. Whether it's about deportation, whether it's about we want to maintain our peace. So I want us to give quick sentiments or quick feedbacks on the same. Are we this decision, the slowdown of IEBC vetting, now the court has halted it, and now the opposition is also firing talks or maneno kuhusu uchaguzi huu wa 2027. Do you think that the outrage about preparedness, about the constituencies lacking representatives, do you think this outrage is something that should be of concern, especially to us as citizens who are voters, of wanting to believe Gachagua that indeed maybe there is a plot to, you know, to rig the 2027? Ojwang, do you think this should be a concern for us as a country?
It is a concern. It's not a question of if it should. It is a concern because we've seen these things happen. And for what we have not seen, we've heard, for example, 1992. 1992, the president then, the late President Moi, went to parliament. Sahi hata kulikuwa kubaya sana. You know, sahi we are in a multi-party democracy. Before 1992, there was only one party ruling and one party having a presidential candidate, KANU, Kenya African National Union. But that president went to the floor of the House and declared the repeal of Section 2A, which gave another rise to multipartyism. Went to the election in 92, rigged and won. 1997, rigged and won. 2002, I was still young, around 9 years old. I may not have heard about rigging, but someone won. In 2007, we all know what happened, and that's what we are trying to prevent in 2027. Elections have always been rigged in this country because of the process of election that we have and the faults and the loopholes that it comes with. That is why the question of fungua sava, up to date kuongea ukweli wa Mungu, can cheat, can die, is a conversation that has only been left in our homes, bedsitters za vijana wa campus wakiulizana na warembo wao, is it possible today ufungue sava? Because the government can't, and it will never do that. But we must rise beyond these challenges as a country. There is what we call kulinda kura. Kulinda kura means go vote. It's a free, fair, credible election, right? I should be able to go live and show the world what I'm doing. The secret is me ticking, not me doing. Because if we make me doing a secret, hapo ndo uchaguzi unaibiwa. Uchaguzi wote uibiwa kwa polling station. Polling station kwa watu ambao polling zao ni either kashule ama forest is a class. A class. If in that class we can have integrity, we can win election, because free and fair elections only makes President Ruto a one-term president. And it will be peaceful. We should be gearing towards that. We should not waste a lot of time fighting President William Ruto, talking about him, fighting fellow youths who are fighting us. No, We should be on the run looking for solutions, packaging these solutions in a language that Mkenya wa kawaida pale kwa ground anaelewa. So that, you know, the future of business in our country is startups. Lakini saa hizi watu kwa kuwa enabled na uchumi wao wanakimbililia SMEs. For people who went to campus, got learned, have interacted with people from other countries, know and understand about startups. But for Mkenya wa kawaida pale mwenye anauliza Mungu wangu, ni wapi naweza pata 1000 niweke kasoko hapa nianze kuuza nyanya, dream yake ni SME. We should package our language ndio tusikue kama Rigathi Gachagua, tuweze kueleza huyu Mkenya hizi vitu vizuri vile anaelewa. Proper civic education, akifika kwa ballot atakuwa anaelewa kukula ni lazima, na atakuwa anaelewa there is no loyalty in kukula. Mbunge kwa jina Anyango Sylvia akikuja hapa na kula na naandika jina na ID. Mbunge Kutosi akikuja na kula na naandika na ID, naandika hapo hivyo. Juu si siri na hakuna deni kwa politics. But when I approach the ballot, I approach the ballot with clarity of mind and reason. I vote for someone who will help me. So that after that, I don't cry vile Wakenya wamekuwa wakicry for 5 years. I stopped crying myself. I cry because my people are crying and I'm their brother. I have to cry. Personally, I was prepared for everything that is happening in this country before 2022. Because we campaign to tell people that if we go to the ballot and elect William Ruto, this is what will happen. But we still went and elected him. All we are supposed to do ni kuensure hatufinyi sana tumalize democracy tuingie dictatorship. But kutufinya, kama hajaacha kutufinya saizi, he will continue doing that. Na atakuwa anatufinya, anaendea baba. Anatufinya, anachukua Kasmuel. Anatufinya, anachukua Marara. Anatufinya, anachukua huyo mwingine. There are rumors that Maraga ni state project. Atatufinya, amchukue. Aendelee hivyo, afinye, deep state yote ikuwe hapo hivyo kama hatutaungana. It's about us. The youth and are being asked by the Standard, can Kenya break the cycle of tainted leadership ahead of crucial 2027 elections? It is not about all that. It is about us as a people. Can we really change from the status quo and elect someone because he can help you, not you as a person, you as a community? Imagine wewe ukiwa mbunge, sio lazima unipee pesa. Lakini ukinijengea barabara hapa, mimi nitaweza kupeleka nyanya yangu from point A to point B. Mama boga furahie.
Okay. Now, not Ojwang, Kutosi, I'm taking your sentiments on the same. Should we be concerned about the IEBC formation? Or if we should, why, as you make your closing remarks?
We should, because it's the process, or rather the body, that for a certain time holds the nation as we transition. It's like IBC is the midwife of Kenyan leadership. That's how we move into a new era of leadership. We are looking at situations currently when we are having issues in various circles. We are looking at the Natembea situation. If it is corruption and these things come out, there are things that should be able to direct the voter in how they move. We are looking at the situation in Uasin Gishu. A stadium was being built. The cost was 1.1 billion. 68% of that money has been used. Anything is yet to happen on that stadium. These are things that were cautioned yesterday by the Senate Committee on Finance. How are we here in a shell that has consumed more than 50% of its budget? It's not possible. Something is wrong somewhere. So what we can be able to point out is that, yes, we have troubled leadership in various circles. Maybe there are those politicians who are doing their part, but we also have some that we need to correct and find a way of placing other people that we believe can have the mind that the Kenyan had when they voted them in, the trust that the Kenyan had. Because if you promise me something, or rather if you pinpoint this is what you're going to do, even if you're not able to fulfill it, I'll see your steps towards it. And if not, within this first tenure, we need to do away with you. We have a body that was able to deconstruct itself due to a lack of trust, a division that almost split the country. We need a body that now can move us and move us with one mind, with one direction, following the procedures as they should be, so that we don't have questions as the people on the ground. So it is necessary, one, we have an IBC commission that has been prepared, or rather has come out transparently, that has no corners that would make us question what happens at the end of that end. We have to have that clarity, and that clarity is necessary. And we as the media will always front the correct reports, because if it is not clear, we cannot be held back to say it is clear. We have to hold our ground. Ukweli lazima utoke, hata kama wasemanga mgala muwe na haki umpe. Na haki ya Mkenya from the leaders they elect is they need that to happen. Whether it takes the toll of the leader, it's up to them. It's the course that you've chosen. Also, us as the media, the cost is making the information reach there. And at the same time, we can just settle it at the IBC has to be formed in a clear manner that cannot be questioned. That even if there is a question, that question can be answered quite clearly.
Without problem.
Without issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for making time for us this morning. There is quite a lot of feedback here on our social media platforms. That is on YouTube. It's a lot. I really can't read all of them, but most of the people who are saying they're watching the show and they're very happy to have you guys on board and for the interesting insights that you're having for us this morning. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time this morning.
Thank you.
This has been Biashara Tuesday, the 20th of May 2025. So pleased to have you on board this far for the last 2 hours, 30 minutes or so. Thank you for being part of us this